मिर्ज़ापुर 3 कब आ रहा है?
मुझे नहीं पता. जल्द आ रहा है. But when Mirzapur was first offered to me, I was like, I said, have they made a mistake? If I had been offered something else besides Bina Tripathi, no, actually, I do love Bina Tripathi most. But Beena was somebody I didn't understand. When I read the script, I was like, this is not me at all.
Hi Rasika and welcome to Filmfare Middle East.
Thank you, I'm so happy to be here.
How's the headspace right now? You have been one back-to-back successes. How's the headspace?
Headspace is, we're all looking forward to Mirzapur 3. That is
Absolutely.
the headspace.
But do you go out and get a Beena instead of a Rasika shout out wherever, does that happen?
A lot. Yeah. Mirzapur fans are everywhere and they're very expressive and they're very loyal. And it's great for us. We enjoy that, and everybody now, though, the anticipation is so much.
So much for
Yeah,
the season
so
3.
everybody only asks that question these days. कि मिर्ज़ापुर 3 कब आ रहा है?
मिर्ज़ापुर 3 कब आ रहा है?
मुझे नहीं पता. जल्द आ रहा है.
Right. The one thing that I've noticed throughout your journey is that, you have come to be identified with a lot of strong women oriented roles. They need not be the main focus, but whatever character that you have played, you have brought a lot of gravitas to them. But also the characters that you have chosen are very definitive. They say something about, whether it is overcoming gender politics or, asserting. So is that a very conscious choice from your end?
Not really, but maybe subconsciously, you kind of sort of aspire to be in a situation of power. So a woman who's sort of holding her own and finding her way around, like Bina Tripathi, for example, who's very overtly doing that, right, is something which I guess subconsciously is something that many women aspire to. But also somebody like Neeti Singh in Delhi Crime, for example, who's not overtly, will not be termed at all as aggressive, or in fact is very soft spoken, is very gentle, but is still making very strong choices and very difficult decisions. And so, yeah, I think subconsciously that's what happens. And I think I'm drawn to well-written scripts, and any well-written script will have that complexity. It will have that layer to every character. So yeah, so I guess I'm just consciously drawn to well-written script and subconsciously drawn to women who hold their own.
Right. We have seen you play, very complex characters. Like even in Hamid, they're very layered.
Yeah.
And Hamid, Kissa, all of Out of Love also, But when Mirzapur was first offered to you, I want to know what was your reaction. Especially there were those parts which would have kind of, thrown you out of that comfort zone completely.
That was exciting to me. But when Mirzapur was first offered to me, I was like, I said, have they made a mistake? Because were they wanting to call somebody else and they accidentally called me? Because really, I just felt like it was very casting out of the box. And I'm very grateful to Casting Bay, who were the casting directors on Mirzapur, and Karan Anshuman and Gurmeet Singh for thinking out of the box. Because if they had thought stereotypically, maybe somebody like me would not have been a choice for Bina Tripathi at all, because body language is so different, body type is so different from what you imagine a sensual woman to be like. You would imagine somebody with another body type if you were thinking stereotypically. But I think they didn't do that, and I'm so grateful for that. And so much fun when casting is done like that, when people think out of the box. Even for other parts, when they cast actors who I would have never imagined in a certain role, it's always so nice to watch that.
Absolutely. And you took us by storm with that one. We know what kind, your caliber as an actor. But to pull off something like this, like a rural setup completely, like a small town, and, the entire sexual dynamics of the character was completely wow.
I mean, it's a very well written role, and I was just waiting to sink my teeth into something like this, which required me to have a physicality different from mine.
Right.
Beena is sort of very sure of what she's doing, and you can see that in her body language. I am generally a person who's a little all my gestures are a little small. They're a little like this.
You're petite, so I think it just
Yeah.
mirrors that.
So, and Bina's not like that. She really sort of owns the space that she is in at that time. And I really felt like that would be interesting for me to do physically.
And you did.
Thank
like
you.
you went, with Pankaj Tripathi sir and all of them. Like you held your own completely. That was.
Thank you.
I think you're one of the most looked forward to characters in Mirzapur 3.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about the show is that every character is so well etched out, and they built such a solid ground for the characters right in the beginning, right at the outstart, that it's been very easy to therefore build on stories in subsequent seasons.
Right.
Otherwise, if you don't do that work properly, then it becomes very difficult to take those characters forward in subsequent seasons.
Correct.
So I think I find Guddu Bhaiya so interesting, and of course Munna Bhaiya is everybody's favorite, and everybody's always lamenting ki Munna nahi hoga is season, Munna will not be there this season. So yeah, it's but all the characters are very interesting. Like if I'd been offered something else besides Bina Tripathi, no, actually I do love Bina Tripathi. I changed my mind.
We love Bina Tripathi. But tell me something, when at the time when you started was around 2007, 2000?
Yeah.
So that is the time, uske baad mein immediately the OTT and everything happened big time.
Immediately to it took many years. Like 2015, 16 was I think the start of.
Correct.
16 was the time that I actively started working in the streaming space. First, I had done a small part with in TVF's show Permanent Roommates.
Right.
And because that was one of the first shows that I remember when I watched that show, I felt like the writing was so new and fresh. And it was very slice of life, but so interestingly written.
Right.
And then I did another show with them, Humorously Yours, then a short film called Chutney, which I done with Tiska.
Yes.
At that time hit 1 million views overnight, which was very rare then. This is in 2016. And still I think people remember Chutney. It's quite impactful.
Very quirky. Very quirky.
Yeah, impactful short film. So yeah, there was, from 2007 to 16, there were many years where work was not as much as it is now.
But we did not see you succumb to a lot of television shows happening that time. That
No,
is what I was coming to.
I held out on that. Yeah, I held out on that. There were tough decisions because I was getting many interesting offers to do daily soaps at that time, which I was not finding interesting from a content point of view, from a performance point of view. So yeah, that was a tough time when I had to really sort of, when I didn't have much else happening, but I had to say no to what I was being offered. So that's always difficult to do, and I'm glad I held out.
Yeah, because a lot of actors share, like it's easier to say go on with a project, but the tougher part is saying a no.
It is tough.
Because, and especially when you're still trying to make it big, you do not know whether this will work for you, but you are sure that you do not want to go into that zone.
I think it's always hard to say no. I mean, it never gets easier. In fact, it just gets tougher maybe, because you have nothing to lose when you're starting out or when you don't have so much work. But the stakes keep getting higher as the work becomes better and bigger. And so then you feel like, am I making the right decision? Am I losing out on something by not doing this?
Right.
So in one sense, when you have little, it's very freeing. Right?
Yeah.
Because
not
then
much
you're
to
not
lose.
sort of wrapped up in too many ideas of what you might be losing, So, but when work, it's, I think, harder and harder to say no.
So do you feel that kind of a pressure, like, especially post when you're just coming off a successful show or a movie, do you feel the pressure to sign on the next one, or do you just...
Sometimes yes, but I still, if I'm not convinced, I somehow never, if I'm not convinced about how it's going to pan out for me from a performance point of view, then I rarely I can't convince myself to say yes, even if I might talk myself through it for a couple of days, but yeah, I find it hard.
Okay, so tell us something, Rasika, tell us something about the real Rasika that probably, your fans do not know about. What is the real Rasika like?
Much like you, I'm about alignments. So if something is not sort of matching or aligned, I can't sit. I have to go and fix it. I remember there was this cupboard in my room, and we had added one more cupboard, and that new addition was like I think maybe an inch and a half shorter than the other. किसी ने गड़बड़ कर दी, and it didn't sort of match. And I could see it from where I used to, from my bed when I used to go to sleep, and it was hard.
I feel you there.
How can I just fix this?
And you ended up fixing, no? Niche wo, you must have put.
नहीं यार, it never balanced, so I had to live with it. I had to learn how to live with it.
But that's actually a good thing because, then it kind of teaches you.
Yeah, it teaches you something. Anything that doesn't work teaches you something. So,
Right. But what about the other part, when you're not facing the camera, what would we catch you doing?
when I'm not facing the camera, what would you catch me doing which is not work related? Very little, I think. I think I make everything work related. So even if I'm reading a book, if I find it very interesting, I'm like, what if this was a show that we would all be in? Then what would this look like? So I think it kind of sort of finds its way back into thinking about work very often. And that's not always the best thing to do, and I try and sort of compartmentalize things. But nahin, I'm a little obsessive in this regard.
Okay. And, if you had to take one characteristic from Beena and add it to Rasika, what trait would you pick up from hers?
She very silently observes everybody and knows exactly what the other person's weakness is, which I'm not at all good at doing. So I will not know what the other person is thinking in life, and I'll kind of sort of go through the whole day a little bit zoned out and in my own head a little bit. Beena's like very much in tune with what everybody around her is thinking and doing, which is why she's able to manipulate people.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'd love to have that trait. And silently so. Like you'd never
Yeah,
know
very
what she's
subtle,
thinking. With me, I'm an open book. You'll know exactly what I'm thinking. I'm saying what I'm thinking. All that is happening. So yeah, I quite admire that.
Earlier you just spoke about, how you are always thinking about, whether it could be developed into a movie or. Yeah, and you've done Banana Bread with Mukul,
Yes,
your
yes.
husband, Mukul Chadda.
We had co-written it. He did most of the writing, to be honest. But yeah, we kind of brainstormed it together.
So anything coming further on those lines? Anything happening?
Nothing concrete. We keep toying with ideas as creative people living together. We think it's an opportunity to sort of bounce ideas off each other, and we continue to do that. But nothing concrete. When there is something, I will tell you.
Okay. And if you were to say, looking at the entire gamut of characters that you've played, everyone has been very versatile. Each role has been very different from the previous one. But do you see a little bit of yourself in any of the character? This is the closest that you in real life would be like.
Yeah. I mean, some characters are very relatable and some are very aspirational. Like, for example, Neeti Singh in Delhi Crime was very relatable to me. When I read it, I was like, this is me. This is how I was in my college days, very idealistic, very wanting to change the world with my own hard work and, all of that. And Neeti's journey through subsequent seasons and how she gets jaded but still sort of doesn't leave her sincerity is something that I've been very drawn to see how that progresses. So Neeti Singh is definitely one that I related with completely. But Beena was somebody I didn't understand. When I read the script, I was like, this is not me at all. So then to get into somebody else's head, to understand how they're wired, how they think, is I think a very interesting exercise as a performer, and you sort of look for those opportunities.
But can you quickly disconnect the moment the director says cut? Can you immediately disconnect from that character, or does the character play up in your mind for a little while? At least while the show is on.
I think I'm not so conscious of when I've disconnected and when I haven't, because I think these are playing a character is a very experiential thing, and it's not so calculated. It's not so easy to define. It's kind of intangible where you brought something of yourself and where you brought something interesting and new and different, or brought something that the director wanted you to or the writer wanted you to. So yeah, it's not easy to tell. So it's not easy to say ki now I'm disconnected and now I'm connected. You know, of course,
Right.
the attempt always is to try and connect more and more with your character while you're shooting, and you always feel like you're falling short. Like when you're shooting, you're always feeling like, no, I haven't
A
done this
little
well
more.
enough, and I could have, brought out another detail and maybe sort of explored another layer or something like that. So that's constantly happening when you're shooting. So it's very difficult to sort of keep track of where what came from. So therefore it's very difficult to understand that now I'm walking out of this. It's not so clear.
Okay. Rasika, as a teenager, like whose posters did you have up in your walls? Like, who was your teenage crush?
Steffi Graf. Really?
Okay. No,
Like a
no.
crush.
Like a crush, yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan.
Oh, so have you have you had a fan moment with any of them ever?
No, I've never met Shah Rukh Khan actually. Yeah. In all these years, imagine. Yeah, maybe Dubai. Maybe in Dubai.
Amazing. Also, one thing, from the point when you had decided that this is what you want to do to the journey so far, is there a sense of, is there like a pat on the back that I've made it here, or, is there that sense that more?
There's always wanting more. I mean, that's how you sort of keep yourself motivated in one sense, also. But yes, I think I'm very grateful for the variety of roles that I've had. There are and I hadn't sort of imagined that for myself. I was so much in the throw of things when I was looking for work and trying to find my ground in Bombay and all of that. That I think after a few years I didn't have any idea of what what exactly I wanted, because you can't in this career, right? You have to kind of improvise along the way. You can't come with a set idea कि मुझे ये चाहिए and then you'll achieve that also. ऐसा नहीं था. And I didn't have set ideas. All I knew was that I wanted to do different kinds of acting work, different kinds of performances, and I did get a chance to do them very close to each other. So I also got an opportunity to explore a versatility and also to showcase it. So I think in that regard I've been very lucky.
Amazing. So, what are the upcoming projects that we can look forward to?
A bunch of stuff that I've shot for, but the next I think will be Mirzapur 3, which will come out.
Very
and
excited.
I'm scheduled to shoot Delhi Crime 3 this year.
Wow.
And there are a few films. One is Little Thomas with Gulshan Deveya, another is Lord Curzon Ki Haveli with Arjun Mathur, and two new shows. One which I'm very excited about, which is another very different role, which is a very snappy, sassy role, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that has panned out. Yeah.
But in the long term, do you see yourself directing, because you have a knack for the way seeing things a certain way? Do you think you'd ever see yourself as a director or a writer?
I think all performers have to see things from a directorial point of view, because filmmaking is a director's medium, and to be able to collaborate with them, you have to understand that this is a team effort and we all have to sort of so you have to understand how the other person is thinking, or what the challenges are for a director at a particular time, what the challenges are for a camera team at a particular time, and so you have to be aware of that. So I think all performers are tuned to the what you don't see in front of the camera. They're all tuned to what is happening behind the camera. No definite plans of directing. I think it's a very difficult task, and I really have so much regard for directors. I really feel a director's god. They have to have skill in terms of filmmaking, to theek hai, but also in terms of just people management. It's a big part of being a director. You really have to know how to motivate your team, and you really have to know who to pay attention to when you're shooting any shot in a whole film. Whether you should give in to your camera team, whether their sort of need is more important than the actors, or what. You have to constantly make those decisions. Very, very tough job. I won't say never, but definitely no concrete plans yet.
Amazing. But thank you so much, Rasika. It's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you.